No, he looks like your man Brennan from that maths thing on him.
Oh, come up.
Sean.
Probably rough, Mikey.
She's the bigger about me and Sean in the
I think you're so cool. I think you're so cool.
That's my natural colour. Where? Man, the white part.
So.
Right, go back in out.
That's fine.
No. I'm just checking to see how you broke it out in the end.
But this is another one,
The girls.
no?
So, okay, is that everybody? There's nobody left in the back, right? Okay, sorry guys, just to go through this. Catherine?
Yeah.
Laura?
Yeah.
Sean?
Yeah.
Sarah Jane?
Yeah.
Emily? No, no Emily. Shauna?
She never done it.
Pardon?
She's never done it.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I'll get it on.
Denise? Denise?
I was elected onto the board of Shamrock Rovers. I am the youngest board member and the only female board member as well.
And the only one from Tallaght.
Rovers are a new element into the Tallaght community, and I think they fit in very well.
Tallaght is such a big place and it's changing and developing. It's very different now than it was just a few years ago. There's a lot of building going up and a lot of new stuff coming in.
Where different areas have a community feel, Tallaght as a whole, because it is so big, is made up differently. At the outside, you would have council estates that went up in the 60s and 70s when people were moved from the city centre out there. There would have been social problems typically in those areas.
I think it will be great for Tallaght having its own football club.
I think from Rovers' point of view, it's great to have this area to get fans from. But I think the other way around as well, for people in the area, having something they identify with. At the moment, we don't have a sports club that people go to watch. There isn't any event in Tallaght that you're going to get thousands of people gathering together for, and essentially the Tallaght Stadium and people coming there for events will be the first time that would happen.
And if our team were successful at getting into Europe, you'd have teams from around Europe coming here to play Shamrock Rovers.
It is not just about the football. Rovers are involved in a few different things with the community. They have a scholarship scheme with the IT, and they have a scholarship scheme with St Aidan's Community College. We go out and give them coaching.
But with the momentum of having the first team in Tallaght, you can roll out the school football in the community a lot more. And then them kids have Rovers players or a club promotions officer coming out to their school. Then on a Friday night, they're going to want to go and see the team because they'll have some sort of connection with it.
And even for business in the area, having people coming from all over Dublin, because Rovers is essentially a Dublin club.
Thomas Davis GAA Club is a very old club, formed in about 1888, so that would have been about 2 years after the association was formed. We are a very village team when Tallaght was nothing. It was, for the want of a better word, swamp area. When we were kids, we used to pick blackberries around here.
There was nothing else. We're surrounded by mountains. There is a feel of being out in the countryside even now.
With the help of the local Republican, we bought this ground here off a man who was the local farmer.
So we progressed from there and built the first phase of our new clubhouse, which a lot of people, because we were outside the village, a lot of people said, "White elephant, nobody ever travelled that far." When you look around now and you see what's built around, we're in the middle of a huge city.
But we find it difficult to get young people to come in. They will eventually, when they get married and settle down and their own kids are playing. That's what we're hoping for.
Thomas Davis has great traditions, and over the years we always kept the traditions. We go by the rules. We go by the rules of the association. People try to change the colour of the jersey. They try to change the design of the jersey. They try to do this, that and the other, but we won't allow it. We don't let old ways go out the window, although we want new ways as well. We stick with what we know, and what we know best. The GAA is certainly moving with the times.
They're promoting the sport. It's an awful shame they don't give us an extra few bob, because everything here in Thomas Davis, we finance everything ourselves. We get nothing for nothing. Everything you see, everything up the road, okay, we got our lotto grants, but other than that, it's all financed by the members.
Just talking about Tallaght as a community, that would have grown massively in the last few years, and there'd be such an array now of different communities all over the world living in Tallaght. There is growing interest in the sport from people with different cultural backgrounds.
We have a young man. For the life of me, don't ask me his surname. I don't think I'd be able to pronounce it. He's from Iran and he's an absolute gentleman. He's 17, he came into the club and he picked up the hurling very, very quickly. Then he picked up the football very, very quickly.
He's absolutely brilliant, and it's amazing hearing him up at the hurling wall with his young brothers teaching them how to hurl, and he's giving out to them, he's cursing at them in his native tongue. Then he comes back here, he puts on his tie and white shirt and he's serving behind the bar.
We have a few little coloured lads. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but they are. They're playing on the juvenile teams and they're great kids. They're great kids.
GAA is completely different to soccer. You don't move from club to club, as you know yourself. You stay with your club. I'd say 99% of the people in Thomas Davis grew up with Thomas Davis.
Basically, Dad ran me to football, and at the end of the day, I was going to be a Rovers fan ever after that. I saw my first match back in October 1983, 6 years old, and after the first 5 minutes I was hooked. Not having a home ground, it's been tough. There's been good days over the last years, but an awful lot of dark days. 20 odd years without home. Please God, next year we'll be in that ground, so I can't wait, to be honest. There'll be a lot of tears shed that day, and probably a lot of drink to make up for the tears as well.
When we step out there next year, it'll be worth all the pain. So it has been tough, very tough. But it's like in anything, what is it you say? No pain, no gain. The local community, even people that are not involved, have been very good with us as well. It's really good. The great thing we have is the community base. There are other supporters clubs, and they're all really Rovers driven. That's a great thing as well, but there's no real community base to them.
You may think it's hard to talk about Thomas Davis without talking about the stadium in Tallaght, but the fact is, it hasn't affected our club in one little bit. Seeing what we have up here, we have a senior pitch here, we have an all-weather pitch across the road, we have a hurling pitch up the road, we have our training pitch out the back, we have another pitch as you come across the Old Bond Bridge. Now, why in God's earth would Thomas Davis ever want to play in Tallaght Stadium? Never, and we never would, and we never wanted to. It was a planning issue. What happened with Rovers was simple. They sold on. They has no money. They had nothing. They sold on that ground to a developer and South Dublin County Council bought it back. That's when we came in and the county councillors voted that it would be a multi-purpose stadium and everyone was happy with that. No problems, no issues, nothing. Then all of a sudden, John O'Donoghue came in to the scenario, who was the ex-minister, the Kerry fellow. So he, and it's written in some of the papers, he said, hell will freeze over before the GAA is ever played on that piece of ground. Now taking into consideration, Rovers has no association whatsoever with Tallaght. Going to the old pubs, no photographs of Rovers. They've no association whatsoever with Tallaght, nothing. So why were they handed a piece of ground for nothing? It was important to bring it to court because we felt it should be a multi-purpose stadium. What was wrong with Gaelic football and soccer being played side by side? So anyway, it went to court and we won the first round in court and the second round. We always felt that the judge, we didn't know what way it was going to go. Anyway, we met Rovers, a delegation from here, a delegation from Rovers. We met them up on the plaza and we said to them, call all your matches. And we said, can we get 5 matches up there? No more. And that would be adult football, county. They said no. We couldn't see why. But in saying all that, there are never any sour grapes in Thomas Davis. We wish Rovers the best. Good luck to them. They're there. But South Dublin County Council is rebuilding the pitch. South Dublin County Council are maintaining the pitch. South Dublin County Council are doing everything. Rovers are the tenants. So what's it costing them? Nothing. Nothing. They walk straight in. They're walking into a purpose-made stadium. And by the way, you're paying for it. You're paying for it. Taxpayers paying for it, which I think is all crazy. It will not have any benefit for Tallaght. How can it? They've no community presence at the moment. They might gain that. At the moment, I can't see any community presence.
It's a professional sport as opposed to an amateur sport. But as I said, they're there. They're there to stay, I would imagine. And Thomas Davis, at no time do we ever want to go onto that ground. Never. It was a county issue. We just wanted the Dublin team to play a few matches there. Just a few matches so that our kids could see them instead of go to Parnell Park. Not even junior games might be played there. See, that's very dodgy. Think about it. We have, for argument's sake, little Joe Bloggs playing under 13 and he's an excellent footballer. And the next day, somebody turns around and says to him, "Geez, you can make for Man U. Will you play with us?" Of course you would. Of course you would lose people to soccer. Take into consideration also, we have young lads playing with Shamrock Rovers at the moment. We've no issues whatsoever. If we would have got over that hurdle with both clubs playing up there, I think it would have been fantastic. I think it would have brought everything together, but it didn't happen. Our club motto, I don't know it in Irish, but in English it's challenge unites people. Nashkan Dushlan Dina. Because on our club crest, what we have is Thomas Davis, Dominican and Dublin. We were always associated very much with the Dominicans. We got that motto out of the Dominican library in the village, and we thought it was fitting.
How Shamrock Rovers and the stadium came together is a long story. Shamrock Rovers had Milltown, it was their home, and one of the directors there who owned the land sold it for economic reasons. This happened so quickly and they had nowhere to go. So they came to South Dublin and said, "Have you got anywhere we can set up the stadium?" That's how it happened. It's taken a long time. The GAA is strong. I would never lose sight of that. GAA and other sports are strong here, but the soccer is so big in Dublin and so big in the country. Shamrock Rovers not being in a position to financially complete the project itself, South Dublin County Council had to take over, and we decided to take over the stadium for Shamrock Rovers and for other uses. I don't know how strong the old rivalry between GAA and soccer will be. There is naturally a bit of it, but they are competing for the same people. That is what has happened. And in school now, soccer is equally as much played as GAA, football and hurling. probably more so in some schools. Concerning the rivalry around the stadium, that's the decision of the Ministry for Sport, Arts and Tourism at the time. I can't say the council will be entirely happy with that decision either. I would see the council's role and our role in making a community. At the end of the day, it is a facility for the community and that's who we want to use it.
We are female fans, so we can talk about the legs and not the offside rules. No, it's because we know the offside rule and there's a stigma attached to female football fans, soccer fans. There's such a stigma. You go to look at the lads and that's it. And that's not true.
There is a core group of girls that will go to the Rovers, maybe 4 or 5.
A few sort of come and go. It's the same with the lads. People get older, people discover drink, and women or men. Have kids, get mortgages, get jobs and can't commit. The first 5 games is a new season in Tallaght, in our new stadium. You're going to get full crowds anyway, regardless of who we are playing, regardless what position in the league we are in. The neutrals are the ones that we have to latch onto and make it entertaining, make it a spectacle. Neutrals and people with families expect more than people who are going 20 years. Also, when Rovers were playing where you had no facilities, you're just basically standing there watching Rovers on the field, going home and that's it. Neutrals won't take that, families won't take that. You need entertainment, you need facilities, you need value for money.
Girls are very fickle when it comes to any sport and it really does depend on if they're entertained or not or who's at the match. The B-ball brigade, that's what we call them.
Are we going for the weekend? Ah, brilliant, yeah, count me in. Drinking before, drinking during and drinking after. They know it's a social event. You'll get anyone to go.
But to actually get them to go week in, week out, buy their season tickets and support the team, support the club, it's things like that that the real fans will go. That's what you need to get in Tallaght. That's what we need to build up in Tallaght.
There is still a stigma attached even with Rovers themselves.
And it's the players as well because they'll assume new players when they come to the club, they'll see us at the games every week and we might see them on a night out and they'll be like, oh yeah, we've seen you at the Rovers games, blah, blah, blah. And then instantly think we haven't got a clue. But then we'll see them again and they'll be like, we saw you at Cove on Thursday. What were you doing?
Especially new players that come from bigger Dublin teams are used to girls. They call them dollies.
At this stage, because the lads know us so well, they'd be the ones coming up to us, oh, how do you think I got on last night?
But that's because they know us. Otherwise, they wouldn't bother asking us. If we signed a new player, someone no one knows, they will ask us, how do you think he's doing for us?
But that's it, there's a stigma attached and always, 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 because you got the wives.
It's getting worse now. Everyone's looking at the magazines, they're seeing the wives and all. People assume you go to Rovers, you go to football, oh, that's what you're like. But it's not the case.
Because we know the lads, more importantly, they know us and they know we're here for Rovers. They know our fathers, they know our grandfathers, they know our uncles, our brothers, and they know regardless where Rovers are in the league, regardless of who may be playing for us and how tight their shorts are, we're going to be there anyway.
Wind, rain, sun, hail, we're going to be there anyway.
I would regret if any impression had been created that had particularly strong or indeed informed views on this subject. I suppose that I'm trying to point out the dangers of viewing this once-off planning dispute as a microcosm of the relationship between sports in Ireland, or seeing the GAA as any sort of a liberal or reactionary force in comparison to soccer.
I say this as someone who does not like Gaelic football and who rarely watches hurling, although I recognise that hurling, in contrast to Gaelic, is the most skillful sport in the world. I would come very much from a soccer background and would dislike much of what the GAA stands for. But I think that it is also needs to be recognised as perhaps the last great truly amateur sport in the world.
In contrast, last Sunday, 82,000 people packed into Croke Park for the All-Ireland Gaelic final, which was played with a level of intensity and belonging that soccer can really rarely reach. No player was paid, and every player was there because they were playing for the county in which they were born. There are no stars trying to get bigger paychecks for themselves in Gaelic. No agents, no separation, no terraces between fans, no violence on the streets.
Tallaght Davis belongs to Tallaght in a way that Rovers will never be able to.
Soccer is primarily a male and macho world. While Gaelic may give the impression even more on the pitch, it is totally different off the pitch, where it belongs to the whole community. and you have all the wives and girlfriends and mothers involved.
It might be a next to impossible for a gay man to play Gaelic, but with soccer it would simply be impossible because there is no softening, no female input into soccer. While with Gaelic, if wives, girlfriends and mothers decide something among themselves, then players eventually fall into line or sleep in the shed.
GAA has a unique community culture which starts at the under 8s and ends with men and women in their 80s, still thinking of that local club as their second home.
But Shamrock Rovers themselves have a huge pull, even if by now largely nostalgic among Dublin men, based on the fact that they were the true glamour club of Ireland until the last 2 decades, during which they were homeless.
I remember going to Milltown. You'd have Rovers and Bows at the game, and you'd have the Rovers behind one goal, Bows behind the other, and on the terrace you'd have fans mixed. You can't do that anymore. When we used to look at the match of the day for England football, we saw good football. That's what you aspire to. But when they started to show violence on TV, people started to impersonate that as well. They talk to each other on phones, the internet, and they organise fights. That to me is a copy of what happens in England, and it happens all across Europe as well. I miss being able to stand with the Pats fans. Bows and Rovers started out together, and at half time they'd walk by each other and switch around and sit behind the opposite goal, and I'd love that to happen again. The police wouldn't let it happen now. I think they have to do something to bring fans together rather than separate them, because separating them is just a safety precaution. Wouldn't it be better if you didn't have to do that?
Say, just for argument's sake, you've got different areas of Tallaght that probably don't get on with each other. But when it comes to Rovers, I'll bring them together, and it'll help, I think, to solve some social problems that we have. We're the best team in the land. You'll hear them singing, the Ultras. That is Rovers. They created a new atmosphere in the League of Ireland.
Our fans have gone to the police to say, we think you are doing it wrong. You don't know what you are talking about, but we do.
But you really don't need them if you do it right. That's putting extra expense on our club because they have to pay for all those guards. Those guys don't come free.
I think they need to listen to the fans. That idea is the same as if you get a mixed choral like you used to have years ago. Do it with young kids. Rovers, young kids, Bows, young kids, with their parents in the game. They don't want trouble. Try it.
We had a photo shoot in the square there a couple of weeks ago for a sponsor, and all the people were stopping to have a look and see what was going on. And I heard them saying, they're Shamrock Rover players. There's an excitement building in Tallaght about it. The whole stadium is so exciting. It's unbelievable. It's really good for the community as well there, because it's so much developed there in the last 10 years. Things are just shooting up every other day. Shopping centres, big outlet shops, you know, it's really commercial. Outside of all that, there has to be a heart in the community, and it hasn't been so obvious in Tallaght. But now you can see that all that has changed. You can see that Tallaght is becoming a city within itself. There's people actually living here. I think that the stadium is a fantastic location because everybody can see it. If they are going by on the bus, if you're cycling by, walking by, driving by, no matter what, you're going to see this stadium and it's going to strike you straight away. This is the community in Tallaght. It will be great. I think that everyone will support it.
In those 5 years, most of the building took place in the early part. In the first 2 to 3 years, then came to full stop because investors got a bit tight. There was a club to be run and a team to be put out, so that cost money.
Building work stopped. When the 5 years elapsed, an application was made for a 1-year extension, which was granted by the South Dublin County Council. No work took place during that 1-year extension. No work had been done because funds had run out. A couple of years went by, but no activity.
With no planning permission and no money, we weren't aware of the detail. We just knew we were in trouble.
We hit, as they say, the rocks and went into examinership.
And in that time, essentially, we would be looking for a new owner.
So we had a good look at our finances and our potential to earn and raise some money from our members. And we made it known to the examiner that we could make some sort of a bid to actually take ownership of the club. One little anecdote was during the 1987 World Rugby Cup, which was played in Sydney, Ireland versus Australia. Comes on Ray Wilson. Well, another fellow, Michael Kearns, who's back home in Dublin since and remains as fanatical about the club as Ray did. I remember Mick and Ray coming out with a banner, and I'm seeing at home at 2 o'clock in the morning. Keep Rovers at Milltown. Fantastic.
The examiner made a figure of the money that would be needed to take care of the creditors, to proceed to High Court judge of the ability to run the club, and to essentially take us out of examinership.
We were able to come up with half that, and Ray Wilson came up with the other half. So the members' club became a 50% shareholder in Shamrock Rovers, and that's it.
We're not as community-based as other clubs. Shamrock Rover fans are literally everywhere, and we've worked very hard on our profile in the Tallaght area, and it's benefiting us now. People have taken us into their hearts, some of the younger kids more importantly. The stadium being multi-use, that is something then that the club really supports and welcomes.
We certainly have nightmares with the near miss we had with the GAA. No doubts about that.
There's no communication between us and Thomas Davis, absolutely none.
There's a realisation on our part that had Thomas Davis won their court case, our stadium would not have been suitable for where we want to bring Shamrock Rovers. You could certainly play football in it, but it would have been too big as a playing area. Far, far removed from what we believe the soccer or football supporting people of Tallaght would want. They would want to go to a stadium with an atmosphere. Full house, floodlights on, and a cracking game of football. They don't want to be peeking through binoculars wondering who the new centre-half might be that evening over the far side. The National League season starts around January, February, and you will see them playing on a mud patch. That's just the way it is. I go to enough GAA matches to know. I fully support what's going on in GAA. I think it's fantastic.
They may have the grass cut from time to time, but that's the extent of the treatment that's applied to the pitch, because they don't need it. They're only running on it, catching balls and kicking them. They can play in a cabbage patch. It's not an anti-GAA thing. We know that Thomas Davis were the stalking horse of the Dublin GAA. The intention was to grab the stadium as a Southside Parnell Park. Thomas Davis were somehow used by higher people up in the GAA to fight their political battle, and the club were used as a sort of, I'm not sure what the right word is. They were hijacked and they went at their task with gusto, with great enthusiasm.
Because of their situation, their location, they were seen as the club with the best chance of success, because it was part of the parish, if you like. So yes, they were the stalking horse, they were the vanguard, and it was driven by Dublin County Board with the agreement of the GAA right up to the top.
The GAA is a very, very wealthy organisation with a high profile. They just wanted to take the stadium as well, which would have never been used by Thomas Davis, by the way, because they certainly don't have the attendance to ever justify it. It would have been used by Dublin to promote their inter-county championship matches, without a shadow of a doubt.
The GAA in Dublin were worried that the GAA is losing popularity.
That soccer is maybe gaining in popularity. They are concerned they are about to see the demise of hurling nationally.
The football is another kettle of fish. It's a brutal game, it's a brutal game. It's all pull and drag. It's awful, and yet they build this hype around it. At least with rugby, I can appreciate what they're doing as a team. The team works fantastic in rugby. But GAA football, unbelievably bad game. They talk about Australian rule games being wild. Gaelic football is shocking.
It still gets 82,000, but then the Gladiators, they filled the Coliseum, didn't they? They were basically just killing each other, weren't they?
We have a huge rivalry with Bohemians. We have been having incidents of difficulties far removed from the stadium. There's an area of Dublin we've got to go through, and there's a group of people around that area have decided to target Shamrock Rovers every single Friday night. That violence should be stopped. But it actually has nothing to do whatsoever with the rivalry between Bohemians and Shamrock Rovers on the pitch. With Thomas Davis, GAA is different. In a day-to-day sense, lots of Shamrock Rovers players in Tallaght will undoubtedly be playing for Thomas Davis. The GAA is a natural home for lots of kids growing up. They don't discard kids like soccer does.
The relation between Thomas Davis and Shamrock Rovers will always be, at best or at worst, as natural as it ever was. There is none. None means there's nothing good or bad happening. There's just nothing.
There will be kids playing soccer and Gaelic and going to Thomas Davis one night of the week and Rovers the next night of the week. But I suspect that it is more a Thomas Davis problem than ours. Their worry was that they would lose some of their young playing kids to our young soccer team. I don't know whether that's a real threat or not.
Time will tell. There's only room for so many. It's not as if we're bringing something new to the world. We're bringing something new to Tallaght. But there's been interactivity between kids playing for soccer clubs and GAA clubs since God was a boy.
I just think Gaelic football is a brutal spectator sport. I don't have anything against it, other than I just think it's awful. But that's freedom of choice.
Oh, thanks. Don't be afraid. I got you. You can take Ladies, shut the phone.
Thank God. I'm safe. You're screwed.
See, give me that seat.